This is Rich Friend, broker at Ricardo, Amigo Real Estate, better known as RARE. And today we're going to walk you through the buying process, the how-to of the buying process. I'm going to go over kind of start to finish what it looks like, and I'll touch on many different aspects of the process. So initially what you want to do is work with a real estate agent, a professional that knows the area. Also that they could be a specialist maybe in pre-construction or finished construction. The nice thing up here is that the majority of our market is all finished construction or raw land. So there is a difference in purchasing raw land and a house, but we'll get into that a little later. First, you start out, you speak to your professional advisor and you say, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want to get out of the property. Do I want to use it for rental? When am I going to be using it? How often will I be using it? And is it something I just want to put away and just maintain, and then when I'm ready for retirement, I'll come down and use it? So you need to kind of define what the purpose of the property you're buying is. Secondly, once you find the property that you've decided on, you want to talk to your professional advisor about negotiating an offer, what would come up, due diligence process. But let's start with your professional advisor writing up an agent and negotiating on your behalf with the seller. There is usually a negotiation process between buyer and seller. So you as a buyer will present an offer. The seller can either accept, counter, or negotiate continually on with certain either price or conditions. Let's say that the seller accepts the offer. You go under contract. You have a binding contract between buyer and seller. And then the first step is beginning the escrow process. Usually it's a 10% deposit into escrow with partial closing costs and due diligence. Your due diligence is going to be whatever you decide you would like. The three main kind of pertinent information that you want to know is usually title search report, home inspection report, and survey. But it could go on way beyond that. You could do perk tests. You could do engineering design. You could do, you want to know the build out, how much you're allowed to build out on the property, how much of property use you have, if you can subdivide. So there's multiple things you can do in due diligence. I'm just kind of listing the main three. Usually it's a 10 to 20 business day due diligence period, but money is usually in escrow within 5 business days after both parties signing the contract. After you have money in escrow and once both parties sign, you're starting your due diligence. And once due diligence is done, you send the document. It's a release of contingencies, release of due diligence to the seller saying, I either accept all this due diligence or this is what I would like to see based upon my home inspection report or based upon my investigation. I would like this to be cured. And you go through that process, and again, your advisor and the RARE closing team, which consists of a legal department, will be advising you through the entire way. We're going to kind of be holding hands, and let me mention at this point that during the negotiation process, you're either going to be taking over an existing fideicomiso or getting a new fideicomiso as a foreigner purchasing a property. I also should mention that most of our transactions here are done in US dollars. However, if the seller insists on taking pesos, we are in Mexico and you must pay in Mexican pesos based upon a negotiated currency rate or the rate of exchange at the time of closing. So even though most of our transactions are in US dollars, we do have to post in dollars and pesos on the MLS. And the fideicomiso process, this is, you can see we have multiple reels and some YouTube videos on the fideicomiso process. Also on our website, we kind of define what is a fideicomiso. So please check those out for further reference. But essentially, let's say you're taking over an existing fideicomiso with a bank. Fideicomiso has 50 years on it. Let's say that's 20 years, but it has 20 years that you're taking over. You have 30 years left plus multiple 50-year options on it. So you get past the diligence part. and then we go towards the closing process. The closing process involves what I just mentioned, the fideicomiso, so that's the bank part of it. There's also the municipality part of it. The municipality requires an appraisal. They require other documents that you as the buyer, as part of your closing costs, a freedom of lien certificate. All of this to start the closing process. There has to be a folder presented to the bank with both parties signing bank documents. And as a buyer, it's super important to remember that you have to provide your real estate professional and the closing team, the legal department, with all of your documents. This includes identifications, any general information for you and whoever else is going on title, your substitute beneficiaries, which could be your children, family members, or friends. It also will include your marriage certificate. They want to see proof of address, either in the country of where you live, and if it's in Mexico, they want to see it for your Mexican residents. But it's got to be within 2 months, a proof of address. It could be in the form of a utility bill. Then we're set for closing. We get a closing date. Hopefully, as a buyer, I always recommend that the buyers be present for the closing, because you get your education and you go through thoroughly. Our legal team goes through with you thoroughly each aspect of the fideicomiso. It's a summation of the process, but we go step by step. So I always think it's a really great educational process to be there at closing. If you cannot be there at closing, and a lot of buyers can't, you can easily set up a power of attorney while you're in Mexico, or in the country that you live in. We could have it set up there via online, or with a notary up there, or the Mexican consulate. So this process would be very easy as well. So we're at the closing, we close on the property, and then the job of the professional advisor is not over. They have to make sure that you have keys for the house. If it's a house, they have to make sure that your title usually is going to take about 3 months to be registered. You want to make sure that if there's services, utilities, such as municipal water, electricity, that all of that after the process will be turned over to your name, which requires one of the buyers actually getting a visa, whether it be a temporary visa or a permanent resident. And to transfer the electricity, one of you should also be registered with Hacienda as a tax contributor in Mexico, and this will facilitate the transfer of utilities. After that, you want to make sure that, and this is something that differentiates us from other companies. As we mentioned before, we have a legal department that walks you through every step. We also have a transaction coordinator that helps you through the process as well. And we have our own in-house hospitality team, which once you purchase the house, can set up property management, maintenance, paying all people like gardeners, cleaning people, any service-oriented people. And also, we do rentals as part of that hospitality, collecting fees, doing check-ins. All of that is a service that we provide, and essentially that makes Rare a vertical integrated company that would be able to facilitate your transaction as a buyer from start to finish. If you have any questions or need more details about this, please contact one of our professional advisors, one of our agents. You can go to RicardoAmigoRealEstate.com, RicardoAmigo.com, a Facebook page, Instagram. So please contact us if you have any further questions about the buying process or anything else. Thank you very much.